Hello and welcome to Progress Not Perfection. My name is Della and I have a very special guest, Amanda Fuller. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Are you?
Yeah,
It's early.
it is.
This is the earliest interview I've ever done. I don't get out of bed for anybody at 7:30 in the morning. But let's get to it. Tell us about yourself. Are you from Knoxville?
I am. I was raised here. Been here, but I'm 46 now, so
You're 46?
yeah,
Wow, I didn't know that.
yeah.
Okay.
So, I've been on the road for the past, since 2019. I lived 6 months in Myrtle Beach. When I was a little girl, I lived in Texas for a little bit, but other than that, Knoxville's been my home.
Tennessee's your home?
Yeah.
Still a great place to live. Well, let's get down to what this show is about. How old were you when you first experimented with your first drug?
My first drug was 12 years old. 12 years old was like it was the first time I got drunk, the first time I smoked pot, the first time I snuck out of the house, and the first time I had sex, all at the same time.
What led to all of that, if you don't mind me asking?
Rebellion.
Rebellion?
Yeah.
Did you have a very sheltered life, or?
No, my mom and the man that I considered my dad divorced when I was 10 and 11. And my mom had remarried another man. And me and that other man had a lot of anger, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain from some things that had been said. And I didn't want to do what my parents told me to do. So
Most kids don't.
yeah,
Most kids don't.
it was the first time that I had consensually had sex with a man. He was 28. He was married and he had 3 kids. I didn't know that he was married and he had 3 kids until after the fact that it had happened.
And you were 12 at this time?
I was 12 years old.
Now, when you say consensual, does that mean that there was sexual abuse in your past?
Yeah, I had been sexually. I don't know. Introduced to sexual situations from a very young age. In 2nd grade, a foster child that was a friend of mine had fondled me. I had a couple cousins that we played doctor, and that led down a path. There wasn't much of that, but it was still there. We got caught. We got in trouble too.
Yeah.
But then my real father, when I was 8 years old, he sexually molested me. And I couldn't understand why he denied it. I was caught. I was visiting them, and they didn't let me call home for like a week after it happened. And when I finally went home, I was scared to say anything because I thought I was going to get in trouble for what had happened. And I said something to my nanny, and we confronted my dad, my father, and he denied it. And I couldn't understand why he denied it. The day that it happened, he was drunk, and he had done drunk 2 cases of beer, and so he was in a blackout. And I can understand today why he denied it. So, yeah.
So you began using when you were 12. So how long would you say you were in active addiction? Did it continue at the age of 12, or were there breaks in between that?
Well, from 12 to 18, I smoked pot and I drank. I got to go on my first date when I was 16. I went to an Aerosmith concert with my boyfriend.
Aerosmith?
Aerosmith, that was my
So
first concert.
jealous. Oh my gosh. So jealous.
Yeah, and we went out, and then we went to his house, and we started drinking. And I got home late, and I didn't wake my mom up, and she came in there and started questioning me while I was asleep, and I told her everything we did. So the next morning, like, I got a mouthful from her, like, so you went drinking last night? No, but like, yeah, I told her myself.
Self-snitcher, I am too. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Honesty's the best policy, though, right?
Right.
Well, I guess at certain ages.
And so I, right before I turned 18, I had met some women, and I was dating this one guy, and the lady come and got me and told me to come to her house. And so I went over there, and she was like, here, try this. And I looked at it and I was like, what is it? And it was crack. And at first, the first time I tried it, I didn't get nothing off of it. And then I tried it again, and then I went back out and sat in the car with my boyfriend, and then that it started drawing me. That need to have more of it. Oh, that felt good.
Yeah.
I need more. And so that started the roller coaster. I was in beauty school. I went through 3 years of cosmetology in high school, and I was in beauty school.
So you graduated high school?
I graduated high school a half a year early, and I was so glad to get out of high school. School was really hard for me. I had learning challenges, and I was bullied so much in school. Today I understand that hurt people. And
Misery loves company.
Yeah, seeing some of the bullies that bullied me, and them as adults now, and them sharing their testimony of, their story of what happened. A mother died, a dad was in addiction, and grandparents, tried to compensate for the loss of the parents in their life. They became spoiled brats, but they were hurting, so it gave me the ability to forgive the kids as I progressed through my recovery. Right. Because I understood that. But yeah, then that started me on a journey with cocaine.
That's how it went for me. I went from crack and then to cocaine. I was 12 when I used crack, and then I think I was 13 or 14 when I started using cocaine.
Yeah.
Usually it's the other way around, but
I couldn't imagine doing it that young. I couldn't. I would have been off the wall.
I was 9 years old when I started using drugs. But mom was also due to sexual abuse too.
Yeah.
So.
To cover the pain.
So, yeah, it filled that void. When you're 9 years old, all you can do is laugh, and that's all you can do. When you're 9 years old and you smoke weed, is just laugh, and you don't think about things. And then when you come down, it's a never-ending cycle. You get high, you don't think about nothing, and then you come down, those thoughts are there, and what do? You got to get high again. So you started using cocaine.
Yeah. And so 18, 19, the day I graduated from beauty college, I did not know I was graduating, but because I had learning disabilities, and I was getting lost in the addiction, they wasn't really working with me to get me to state board. And so the day that I was supposed to graduate, I did not know I was graduating. They had not made me aware that I was that close to graduation. They told me they needed to see me at the end of the day at the office, and I'm thinking all day long, what have I done? Mm-hmm. What did I do wrong? Yeah. Oh no, I'm fixing to get disciplined. Because I was always in the principal's office. And so I go up there, and they hand me my diploma and tell me I can take my stuff and I can leave now. And so I applied to do the state board a couple times, and fear got a hold of me. And I never went and got my license, but I completed beauty school. And so it took me a couple years, and then I had been using met a guy, and at first we had where I worked, we had been joking about just running away. Like, he was in addiction and I was in addiction, and we both wanted out, but we didn't know how to get out. And he was like, well, let's just go to Myrtle Beach. And I had just turned 18, so I was free to fly. Couldn't nobody tell me no.
Yeah.
And so we went to Myrtle Beach, and he left his wife, and I called my mom one day and I said, Mom, I'm going to Myrtle Beach. You're doing what? Well, where are you going? We're going to Myrtle Beach. We're going to go live on the beach. And so we went to Myrtle Beach, and that lasted about 6 months. Where you go, there you are. We found the drugs there.
You're referring to more cocaine or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, more crack. Some things took place. Some things that I should have had felonies for, that I was not charged. By the grace of God, only by the grace of God. He picked up a charge. Later on a couple years later, they got a warrant for his arrest. He ended up having to do time over that. And then, we come back, and we get a place here. And so while we're down we end up with a camper. We're living in a state park. We end up with campers. Somebody sold us a camper for $50. And we lived in a state park in a camper by the time we left. And then we come back here. I'm getting high still. And I go to the hospital to try to get some pain pills for him. I didn't really do them at that point. And the doctor comes in the room and says, you're pregnant. And I'm going, no, I'm not. Yeah, you are, ma'am. You tested positive. From that day until I had her, I did not touch a drug. And so...
That's amazing. A lot of people that are that far in addiction, they can't stop even for pregnancy. So I'm very proud of you for that.
Yeah, but it got, because I had that experience that first time, I would judge women that would use while they were pregnant. Don't you know you have a child in your belly? You're willingly giving that child drugs. Like I would literally judge women. And so then, 5 years later, I was clean for a while, and then my best friend from high school was coming around, and one day I walk in my living room and I found her hitting a can. And I was like, what do you do? I'm like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm not doing that. She said, you ain't got to do it, but I'm going to do it.
What do you mean hitting a can?
For crack.
Oh, okay.
She was smoking a can.
Oh, okay.
Smoking out of a can. And I was like, here, let me have it. And then that started me on that roller coaster again.
So after 5 years of sobriety, you relapsed?
It was like 3 years.
Oh, about 3 years old.
About 3 years of not, I think I might have, I didn't consider smoking pot
a
drug at that time. Like, I'm just not smoking crack. I'm not going insane, and I can control the pot smoking. So I just become a big old pothead. Yeah. At that point. And I drank a little bit. And then I got with the second man, my second daughter's daddy. And I had gotten somewhat clean and trying to stay clean, and he was like, well, I ain't never tried this, let's get some. And I'm like, you don't want to do that. And he was like, yeah, I want to try it. So we end up getting some, and then I go back on that roller coaster. There was verbal abuse, like I couldn't go from my mom's from his house to my mom's house without, him checking the odometer, him calling, because he timed it from there to there, and if I wasn't there, then I was planning on screwing somebody, I was in the middle of it, or I was doing something I shouldn't be doing. And he had a lot of prostitute friends. And so he started, because I would talk to them when they come down the house, he started accusing me of being a prostitute.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and it was constantly an argument with him. It was constantly like, I'm not cheating on you. I'm not, and I wasn't.
Yeah.
But after being accused of it so long, eventually, like, okay, you're going to accuse me of it, like, I'll just start doing it. And then I started, taking calls. They hooked me up with, call centers. And so I became a working girl for a period of time. DCS came to my house one day. My daughter opened the door. My oldest daughter opened the door. She was like 3.5, 4. And so DCS told me if I did not leave, they were going to take custody of her. And so that was my way out of that relationship. And I pulled out, and within a couple of weeks, I found out I was pregnant with my second one. And that one didn't go so well. I wasn't able to stop right off the bat. It took me a couple weeks after I found out I was pregnant with her. And then I stayed clean for several months. And then I can remember at 6 months, I went and got some dope. And I'm standing in my house, and I take a hit of dope. And as I take a hit of dope, I can feel my stomach. I can feel my stomach tightening. And all I can say is, God, please protect my child. I don't want to do this anymore. And I can remember just falling down the wall, sliding down the wall, and sitting there and crying. And my child was born. They had to induce labor like at 34 weeks. She had stopped growing in my stomach at 6 months. So God had stopped her from getting that drug in her system, but she wasn't getting the nutrition she needed. So her life was being sustained. She weighed 4 pounds, 7 3/4 ounces when she was born. But after that day, I didn't touch no more drugs until after she was born. And then that sent me a whole nother road.
Another road?
Yeah.
Was it still crack cocaine? Or?
Yeah, still crack. I'm not with him. I still have her, and I'm still escorting. Even escorted while I was pregnant. Pride was just welling up inside of me. I can remember, saying one time to my stepdad, I make more money in a day than you make in a week. And today it disgusts me when I think about that. But it was, and so I'm on my way to a call and in Sevierville, and I get put in jail. And then I'm supposed to go to court. That day, they didn't find the dope in the car. There was dope in the car, but they didn't find it. But I was high as a kite. And I got caught for driving on suspended license. And the cop was doing an assessment before he put me in the cell. And he called the nurse in there and he was like, "Does she act high to you?" And the nurse threw it off as bipolar, that I was in a manic state.
Wow.
So, yeah, if they had to check the car, I would have gotten possession charges. I mean, it's just insane all the times in my life that I should have been caught. That I was protected. How? It was only by God's grace. And, so I ended up going to jail for driving on suspended license in Knoxville, and I missed my Sevier County court date. Well, my mom's got my kids. Like, she ain't got custody of them, but she's got them. And I had met at my daughter was six weeks old when I met the man that I ended up marrying, and I'm still escorting while I'm seeing him. He knows what I'm doing, and I told him, I was like, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to do it. So if you want to see me, you're going to have to deal with this.
So were you escorting for the drugs, or was it just was it a habit? Or
no, at that time I was escorting for finances,
right?
But it paid for my drugs, so I didn't feel so bad because I wasn't giving myself out for drugs at that point yet.
we like to justify things in our head.
Yeah. So I was making money and I was going to buy my drugs. Yeah. So they extradite me from Knox County to Sevier County is because they've got a capias on me because I didn't show up in court because I was in jail in Knox County. And my mom and my boyfriend at the time comes to pick me up from jail, and Mom's like, "Y'all need to get married." And she's like, "I'll pay for it right now." So, okay, here I have been sitting in jail for 3 days in this long, baggy shirt. I ain't had a shower. And I'm like, sure, that sounds like a great idea. So we go across the street to some wedding chapel, and we get married. And as we're walking back to the car, my mom then drops the bomb on me. And she tells me that she went and filed for emergency custody of my 2 children. And she got granted custody of my children, so they are no longer in my care. And so that sent me rolling straight full on into addiction. That way, into the drugs, I'll live my life how I want to. Now I ain't got no kids holding me down. Like, my mom would call me. My kids would be crying, "Mama, I want to see you." Like, and I'm sitting there high as a kite. I want to see my babies, but I'm stuck in my addiction, man. Like, I'm stuck in the middle of it, and I don't want my kids to see me high anymore. And, I just, and so the battle raged, and it just, I know I'm a mom, but I'm stuck in this, and I don't know how to get out. I can remember when I went to my mom before my kids were born, and this was after I'd realized I was addicted to crack. And I went to my mom and my mom's friend, And I told her, I said, well, Mom, I said, I have a problem and I don't know how to fix it. I said, I'm addicted and I can't quit. And she just looked at me. She didn't know how to fix it either. You know, but I knew I was in trouble. I knew I was in trouble, but I didn't know how to get out of it.
How old were you when you realized that addiction had taken over your life? How old were you then?
I was 19.
19 at that time?
I was 19. Yeah, that was right before, I guess, I found out I was pregnant with my daughter.
Yeah.
It was, you know.
When you went to your mom, we'll take a brief intermission. I'm going to get you a tissue, and we'll be right back. Sorry about that, folks. Had to have a little brief intermission. Are you okay now?
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff is hard to talk about, but I want to thank you for sharing your story. There are a lot of women, especially mothers out there, that feel and felt the same way that you did and do. So,
yeah.
Have you ever tried to go to treatment?
Over the journey, I have been through 15 treatment centers that I've counted.
15?
15 different ones. I think I've only completed like 2 or 3 out of the 15. But yeah, after my mom told me that she took custody of my kids, there was a brief time that I chose to just go full on in. And then found out I was pregnant and went to the OBGYN and the baby was not alive. So in my addiction, a baby was killed.
I'm so sorry.
It is what it is. I know he's with Jesus. So I don't live in guilt and shame anymore like I used to. You know, our path is our path, and we have to learn from our mistakes. But yeah, so it took me to treatment. I got clean, and right after I got clean, I was clean 3 months and found out I was pregnant with my 3rd daughter. And so, yeah, I went to another treatment center. I was in Great Starts, and yeah, I really struggle with people telling me what to do and how to do it and all of that. So
we all do.
Yeah, I'm very free spirited, and so
how many children do you have?
I have 5 total.
You have 5 total.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 6 including one that's in
Right.
living. Okay.
Right. But 3 of them I do not have custody of. I managed to get custody back of my oldest daughter. At the time she was taken, my mom got her, she was 2. Her dad applied for custody and he got custody of her. Well, I wasn't able to retain custody back from him, so she lived with him until she turned 18. But had 3 more children. My third child, I was clean the whole time with her. The 4th child, I used pain pills.
So your addiction progressed from crack to pain pills?
Yeah. Eventually, I didn't go back to crack. Then, so it was pain. It started on pain pills. I had a car accident. I can remember praying to God, I need out of my house. Like, my house has become a trap house. And I need you to help me. Just give me 4 days of complete peace in my mind. And I ended up in a car accident that should have killed me. Destroyed my car. I had just rolled down my passenger window. Ended out the passenger window. Broke the steering wheel column, broke the seat belt, hit the windshield, and went out the passenger window. I was in the hospital for 4 days after that. Yeah. So after that is, you know, that process of getting clean came. And yeah, so the 5th child came, and I completed another treatment center because I told them I struggled with addiction, and I got somewhat clean. During that process, there was a time that I was clean after my third daughter, and I was going to meetings. I was, started trying to go to church and doing all the things that they tell us to do, and my husband was still in addiction. So it became easier for me to stop taking care of myself and being a mom and being a wife and staying home,
Right.
and so I ended up back in the addiction because I stopped doing the things that were helping me, So I went back down that journey. 2011, DCS is stepping at my door, taking my kids out of the house because I failed a drug screen. I can't be mad at nobody but myself. I'm not mad at myself today. I see it is what it is.
Yeah.
So, and then that started that whole process, 2.5 years, trying to get my kids back.
Were you still actively using during those 2 years?
Yes, I was trying to manipulate the system. I was I was taking and buying pills off the street when they called me in for pill counts, or I was borrowing pills. Everything that is done in the darkness will be brought to light eventually at some point. I was 4 days away from getting my kids back in the house, manipulating the situation all the way, going to meetings, treatment and all that stuff, jumping through the hoops, basically.
It looked good on paper.
Yeah, it looked good on paper.
Yeah.
But I was still a complete mess. And my husband come home, DCS was there, they asked him to do something, he got mad, went out to the car, took a shot. As soon as he took a shot, he completely transformed as somebody totally different. And
You made a shot of whiskey?
Liquor. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And when he did that, it was like everything came crumbling. He told the DCS worker that I was buying and selling pills. I was manipulating a pill count. Like, he told it all. And a few months earlier, before that, I'd asked him to leave because I was seriously trying to get clean. I'd get 30 days, I'd get 60 days, I'd fall right back off. I was having health issues, so they were giving me pain pills for that health issue. It was an endless cycle. And I asked him to leave, and he told me, he said, I will be 6 feet under and and you will be in a grave before you get custody of those children. And so he was pretty much out to destroy. He had already signed his rights away, so it was, I was still trying to fight through the addiction, going to meetings, sharing my heart out, crying my eyes out. I wanted my kids home, but after he did that, I was 4 days away from getting my kids back in the home, and my world just fell apart. And I knew at that point, there was no recovering from that. And so they found them a forever home. All 3 of them are together. All 3 are in the same home.
At least they didn't separate them. They still have each other.
Yeah. God answered my prayer in that. There was so many things that I've seen God answer. This lady that couldn't have children. She's got her own story. She tried to have 2. They didn't make it. They were the same ages as 2 of my children. They would have been the exact same ages. So it was like my kids weren't answered to her prayer, and I wasn't stewarding my children the way they should have been stewarded.
Right.
So.
Is that what led you to the path of recovery? Was that breaking point?
Pretty much, yeah. 6 months later, I found myself, found my life unmanageable, even after I got clean, driving on suspended license, living in a halfway house, get pulled over, go to jail for suspended license. Then I go to court thinking I IOP. And the day I'm supposed to graduate is the day that I have to go to court. And I'm thinking I'm just going to get another slap on the wrist. And I'm just a month away from going to court to get my kids back. Mm-hmm. And the judge says, Miss Fuller, you have 12 charges of driving on a suspended license. Yeah, we think you're going to sit for a while and think about what you did. And so I knew in that moment I had lost any chance of recovering from that to get my kids back. And so I spent 21 days in jail sitting and thinking about me losing my kids when I got out. I got out on July the 5th. July the 10th, I went to court. They terminated my rights. I was going to fight for it. I was going to fight. And then they made me aware that my 17-year-old, my oldest one at the time, was going to get in court and testify. And at that point, it was no longer about me. It was no longer about what I wanted. It was what was best for my children. And I didn't want my 17-year-old growing up for the rest of her life wondering if she made the right choice. Wondering if, the words that she said was the reason why I lost the kids. I never wanted her to carry that blame. And so I signed my rights away instead of fighting for my children. They had more than they could ever have with me. And then 6 months later, it's when I wrote a letter to God and asked Him to help me. 6 months, my mom had gave me money to give somebody for their Christmas, to get it to them. It's the last Christmas we would have ever got to give them anything. And I took that money and I spent it on drugs. And I knew that honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness was the key to recovery. So I told my mom that I spent that money on drugs, and I just seen the unmanageability and how I was even hurting my kids even after they were gone. And she said, I'm done with you. I'm done trying to help you. And that led me to the breaking point of either I need to do something or I'm going to end up on the street. Yeah. And I've got tissue.
Okay.
I've still got one.
Okay.
And so that's when I wrote my letter to God. And
do you still have the letter to
I
God?
do. I do.
Well, maybe after we close out, you could read that letter to God if you were willing to do that.
Yeah, I would love to. But within 30 days of me writing that letter, not even 30 days, I had posted on Facebook I needed help. I needed a way out. And I had seen a scripture where God makes a way out. I think it's 1 Corinthians 10:13. There is no temptation that's common to man, but God will make a way out. I can't quote it exactly, but and so that's when I started my path, like full on. Okay, Amanda, you're going to do this, and I started out January 28, 2014. Went to Florida and started a whole new life.
You started a sexual addiction 2
Well,
years later from your original clean date, or?
Well, it had started down in Florida. I had brought my husband down, and we tried to make our marriage work, but he wasn't willing to stop drinking, so he ended up in jail, and God gave me peace, and I divorced him, and then I come back here, and I had picked up where I'd left off with just trying to fill that void with men. and I was doing it in Florida too when he wasn't there. I was dating site after dating site, and guys would be like, "Hey, let's go out on a date." Well, that date consisted of sex, and it wasn't even a date. Like, they didn't even take me out to eat. And I think about it today, like, I mean, at one time I at least got paid for having sex. Like, I wasn't getting nothing now. I know, it sounds crazy. Like,
I don't mean to laugh, but I'll see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and it made me feel some kind of good inside, because at least I was coming away with money and there was a disconnect. But this time I was looking for love.
Right.
And so, like, women associate love with sex.
Yeah.
You have sex with me. Oh, you love me. Like, there's that connection.
Yeah, women get emotionally attached. So, what is your final clean date from everything?
My final clean date is January the 30th, 2016.
So, you just celebrated
7 years.
7 years.
Mm-hmm.
7 years clean off of drugs and men.
Well, I've failed a couple times with men, and I didn't get it right from the beginning.
Well, as long as your life wasn't unmanageable because of that, I mean,
Well, my emotions were unmanageable, but I eventually learned, like, I was doing it to myself.
Right.
Those men were causing me harm because I was allowing it to happen. And when I stopped allowing other people to hurt me,
mm-hmm.
and I started loving myself, then, it stopped. It stopped.
Right.
And, I kind of, it threw me into a relationship with God. I made Jesus my husband. And I literally would take him on dates. We'd go on dates. I would treat him. I asked him, I said, "What does it look like to have a relationship with you?" And he said, and I heard, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." So I had to think about how I wanted to be loved in a relationship.
You had to learn to love yourself.
And
I'm so proud of you.
And so I started learning how to love him, and I started loving him that way, and he started loving me back, And so that's how the relationship part was. All that other was a lot of religion, the works, the doing. But I was missing the relationship with God, and he filled that void. One day I'm wanting to go get validated from men, and I'm in this relationship with Jesus. Like, what does that look like? Like, I'm not supposed to be looking at other men, because if I love somebody, they've got my heart, they've got my eyes, they've got everything about me. And so he told me to write him a thank you letter. I'm like, I don't want to write, and I'm sitting here arguing with him. He said, "Write me a letter." And so I finally, after about 30 minutes, I sit there and I write him a letter. And halfway through the letter, the thank you letter, I started feeling this bubbling up inside of me. Mm-hmm. And then by the time I'm on the second page of this letter, I'm bawling.
Yeah.
And I'm so full of joy. And I have such this love that is just overflowing for me. And I realized in that moment, I didn't need a man to validate me. God validated me in that moment. And from that point on, my desire to be validated from men, I'm happy.
Well, as far as the drugs, do you still have the urge to use?
No.
You have no desire to use?
No.
No fleeting thoughts or anything?
Now, I can't control the first thought, but what I can control is the thoughts after that. Does the thought come? Yeah, but I don't give it no attention, because it destroyed my life. It took everything that I loved away from me.
Yeah.
And so, like, why would I? It's my enemy.
Yeah.
Why do I want to sit and play with my enemy?
Yeah. So what have you gained in recovery?
Oh my God, freedom. Freedom, so much love, so much joy. Oh, I may not have my 3 of the 5 children that I've lost, but like, there's such a peace that overflows for me, the desire to help others, God sent somebody to me to give me an RV. $43,000. And so now I just travel and help people. God sends people my way to, help them come out of the pits, like whatever He wants me to do. I just work for Him now. And just love. I'm learning how to love myself. I'm learning who I am in Him. And, but the joy, man, the Bible says that He gives us double joy for our mourning. It's so true. Yeah. I'm so full of joy, even in the midst of the circumstances that I have. I have struggles. I have things that I'm still walking through. Progress, not perfection, right?
That's right. So faith is very, very important to you. Have you always had that strong faith?
No. No. I have always believed. When I was a little girl, there was a 2-year-old little boy with a tumor on his brain, the size of a golf ball. We had a prayer session. The next day they were going to do surgery. That tumor was gone. They could not find it. And they had done multiple scans, so it wasn't a broke machine or anything like that. Wow. So that made me come to believe. And I confessed Jesus as my Savior when I was a little girl. I had Him in my mind. But it wasn't until years later, after the whole journey, that there was a heart transplant, a heart change. Yeah. I understood God was my Father. I understood, Jesus as my husband, and it just, it's been amazing.
I love that you're filled with joy and that you do everything that you can to help anybody that you can. It is a beautiful thing. But in your personal opinion, what do you think that we could do as a community to better help the addict that wants help but has no means to do so?
Well, the key word is wants help. There are some out there that don't want help, that love where they're at, they're comfortable where they're at. Yeah. But then there's those that, the ones that want help, we need to love them. We need to help them. We need to encourage them when they fall down. How I see God on the sidelines cheering like a dad, come on, get back up, you can do it, and just come alongside them and encourage them and, help find the places that will meet the needs that they need. Everybody is different in their own way. Not everybody recovers the same way.
It's very true.
So we, the resources and the ability to help them and to encourage them that, that's just not, don't quit. Be their cheerleader on their sideline, because a lot of them have never had cheerleaders. They don't know. Yeah.
A lot of them, their family have turned their backs. And so never turn your back and show love and support them. So I have to ask, I ask everyone, if the sick and suffering addict were sitting right in front of you, what would you tell them?
Don't quit. Don't give up on trying for a better life. You might fall down 50 times, but you get back up those 50 times and you try something different. When you fall down, don't beat yourself up, because that's not helping you none. But look at it and look at what you can learn from it. When we take those mistakes that we make in life and we take them and use them as lessons, as stepping stones to the next level, eventually we'll get it. Some quicker than others. Some of us, it takes a lot longer. But just don't quit, no matter what. Keep going. And I can tell you that you can do this. I didn't think I could do it. And God gave me strength. So when you're at your lowest and your weakest, God's right there with you. He ain't never left you. He's not mad at you. He's not angry with you. But He's waiting on you to ask for help. He wants to help you.
That was... I love that message. I do. Well, okay. Wow, you are very, very powerful. I love you.
I love you.
And thank you so much for being on Progress, Not Perfection. And I hope we can build a relationship and get to know each other better.
Absolutely.
My name is Della. This is Amanda Fuller. This is Progress, Not Perfection. And we'll see you next time.
Hey God, it's me, Amanda. I'm sitting here thinking about all I've done wrong. I need you to help me. I'm sick of who I am. My life is a wreck, and I want to change. I am so miserable. Please, God, help me. I need you right now. I need you to scoop me up in your arms and help keep me safe. This is not who I am or who I ever wanted to be. Devil, flee from me. I don't want you here no more. You have destroyed everything I love, and I am a child of God. And He is my protector and my God. God, take these thoughts and obsessions away from me. Give me the strength I need and the ability to resist even when I don't want to. I'm asking you, please, help me to change every aspect of my life. I want to follow you. I want to work for you. You have so much for me to do, and all I'm doing is laying in bed. Give me the desire to want to get up and be productive. I know I can, but I need a push. Please, I am asking from the bottom of my heart. Your love is great and you are wonderful. Take this pain, hurt, and turn it into willingness and open-mindedness and honesty. Please show me what I need. I love you, Amanda Fuller.
Thank you for staying.